Victor de Aldama is preparing a devastating statement against Pedro Sanchez's government. Let's begin. Hello everyone and welcome to a new edition of Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez. And pay close attention to the information we're about to reveal regarding the statement that businessman Victor de Aldama is preparing. His statement as a defendant in the context of the Coldo case trial, which is taking place at the Supreme Court this April. And that statement is scheduled for next week, specifically on April 29th. We'll see if there are no changes in the dates or the schedule. In the trial, some statements are moved up while others are postponed. But watch out, because we have information about that testimony and what is going to happen during Victor de Aldama's testimony. I can already tell you the government of Pedro Sánchez won't like it at all. Let's go over this published information as we always do, putting it on the screen. By the way, if you haven't done it yet, remember to subscribe to the Medidas Cautelares channel with Miguel Ángel Pérez. We're about to reach 128,000 subscribers, and the goal is to get to 150,000. And we're putting it on the screen now so you can follow it from home. And there you have an image of the businessman Victor de Aldama from one of the statements he made at Spain's National Court. And to his right, you have a person who is, without a doubt, one of the key people responsible for Aldama getting this far, through cooperation with the justice system, who is none other than the lawyer José Antonio Choclán, one of the best criminal lawyers in Spain, and together they have formed a team that has Pedro Sánchez's government completely cornered over the corruption in the Coldo case. And we're going to start now with this information. Businessman Victor Aldama is preparing a devastating statement against the Pedro Sánchez government in the Coldo corruption trial. The Supreme Court, as you know, is holding the first trial over this corruption scheme this April. During the preliminary hearing that took place in mid-February, the chief anti-corruption prosecutor Alejandro Luzón already left the door open for Aldama not to go to prison after his confession. In his indictment, which you already know is submitted before the trials, the public prosecutor requested 7 years in prison for Aldama himself after considering a mitigating factor for cooperating with the authorities, compared to the 24 years in prison and the 17 years requested for the former Minister of Transport, José Luis Ábalos, and his former advisor, Koldo García, respectively. Of accusation, you know? The head of anti-corruption, Alejandro Luzón, presents the prison years. Sources consulted by Medidas Cautelares and Libertad Digital say that Aldama is preparing a statement with his lawyer, José Antonio Choclán, for the interests, prison, confession, Pedro Sánchez. The hearing, as we said, is scheduled for April 29th. In the accusation of Ábalos and Koldo and attention, it could extend throughout the morning and afternoon in this trial over the Coldo scheme. That a server who appears from prison, anti-corruption chief Luzón, did not enter a confession. In the accusation, as you already know, the Coldo and Aldama cases have been opened, and for now, what is being considered is that Aldama's statement alone could take an entire day, a whole day. So, pay attention to what might happen in that hearing in which Aldama is going to answer everyone, all parties. Defense attorneys, the prosecuting parties, the anti-corruption prosecutor's office, that's why it's going to be a very, very lengthy statement. As we were saying, it's going to be a hearing that we're told will help tie up all the loose ends. Do you know how many years in prison? Anti-corruption. Alejandro left it open for Aldama not to provide context as to how. The criminal organization was integrated within Pedro Sánchez's own government, not outside of it. I think this concept is very interesting. That is, it was shielded, it was embedded within Pedro Sánchez's government. It wasn't a scheme that ran parallel to Ábalos, Koldo, and Aldama, but rather it was fully integrated into the government. This is very important. The same sources consulted point out that Aldama's statement as a defendant is going to be presented by the testigos se han mostrado muy esquivos. Prison, he left open the possibility that they are under investigation in other cases at the National Court. In this context, Aldama's words in the Supreme Court would not be considered for the possible sentences of Abalos and Koldo. His accusation, which presents the prison sentences, anti-corruption chief Alejandro Luzon left open the possibility on Ferraz Street in plastic bags that had previously been handed to him by Aldama himself. Aldama then apparently is going to deny this statement by Carmen Pano that he gave her money for her to take it to Ferraz. He would not go to prison confession. Accusation, that of the prisons, the anti-corruption Alejandro Manuel Contreras from the ASBI group, okay? Whether he avoids prison depends on his statement before the Supreme Court. Prison, his confession in the corruption scheme. That's why they say he won't disappoint the expectations created and will take advantage of his opportunity. We'll see if that's the case. I think it will be. You know that Teresa Peramato, the Attorney General, was maneuvering to sabotage the Aldama deal. As I revealed to you yesterday, the Attorney General is maneuvering to blow up the businessman's collaboration agreement with the Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. Alejandro Luzon left open the possibility that Aldama would not go to prison because of his confession. Noviembre 2024, ante el... Do you know who is bringing the charges? Regarding the years in prison, the anti-corruption chief Alejandro Luzon left open the issue of the hydrocarbon scheme. You already know that those two statements overlapped. On one hand, it was before Judge Ismael Moreno that one of those statements was made. Well, it was Judge Santiago Pedras who had ordered his imprisonment and therefore was the one who agreed to it. Within that collaboration agreement, did you know that Victor de Aldama was produced? They told us about the chief prosecutor, the general of Altrasto, with this collaboration agreement to clean up corruption. De España, la fiscal... Alejandro left open the possibility that Aldama wouldn't go to prison because of his confession, in which the head of anti-corruption presents something that fully implicates the government and Pedro Sánchez's Socialist Party. He already left it open at all costs, that's what they're telling us, so we're going to go in. We are already entering a key phase of the trial about the Koldo scheme, about the first part of the Koldo scheme in the Supreme Court. We have already reached the halfway point. You already know that, in principle, there are sessions scheduled for this coming week and for the following one, and precisely, it's in the following week when it is scheduled. Accusation, with Victor Aldama as the accused along with the other two defendants. He is already in prison, which are the former Minister of Transport José Luis Ábalos and the former anti-corruption official Alejandro Abierta. Aldama is already preparing with his lawyer José Antonio Choclán. His confession would lead him to prison. Sánchez, okay? I think Aldama is very aware of what he's risking, Let's say he has to put his cards on the table now. With his statement at the trial in the Supreme Court and from what the prosecution is saying, the boss is going all in. He doesn't want to disappoint, he wants to meet the expectations that have been set, and he wants to put together all the pieces of the corrupt plot that Alejandro opened up when Aldama went to prison after his confession. Of course, any new information we receive about the accusation, I will keep sharing it, as always, here on Medidas Cautelares with Miguel Ángel Pérez. Hasta aquí esta edición de Medidas Cautelares. He turns himself into prison, anti-corruption chief Alejandro Abierta, to the Supreme Court for less than €7 a month. Thank you all so much for continuing to share the videos with your family, friends, co-workers, or whoever you want, and for giving likes and thumbs up. It's true, we've had a few months where things were a bit slower because there's also seasonality on YouTube. There are better months, worse months, and always after Christmas and Easter there are a few months that are a bit slower. But I have to say that in the last few days things are picking up again, thankfully. The head of the Anti-Corruption Office, Alejandro Luzon, left open the possibility that more and more people will become aware of this information because that's what it's about and that's the main goal of Medidas Cautelares. If you didn't get in already, well, just stepping it up a notch, right? With more visibility, as you know, it presents the years of prison, the anti-corruption chief, and friends from Patrocinio San Jose School. Because this weekend we're organizing a get-together for the 25th anniversary, and the truth is that his confession got to me. The accusation, as you know, was presented by the head of anti-corruption, Alejandro Luzon. Get together again. Many of you have friends you haven't seen in a long time. Really, get together again. It's worth it. To keep great friendships for life, and most importantly, as I always tell you, make sure this information reaches everyone, because information doesn't get in after confession.